record button. I've done that before on Google Hangouts, and that's always fun. But welcome everyone to, this is my first official Blab for SocialKNX. I've been on several Blabs as either the co-host or popping in and out, but we finally committed. I finally committed. I will do this religiously and do this every week, and I'm excited to have Marianne as our first guest because I love your blog, Marianne. I was already kind of previewing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we're going to be talking about how to go from zero to wow with your blog. I was going to say with your Blab. Now maybe people have a Blab blog. And Joey's here. I feel like Miss Marianne. Do you remember? You're probably too young, but Miss Marianne on Romper Room, she held up her magic mirror and said, "I see Joey, I see Marty, I see Barb." Yeah, she never saw me, but anyway, we digress. But Marianne, first tell us about, to introduce yourself and tell me about how you started your business.
Okay. So I'm Marianne Manthe. I have a blog. It's called designyourownblog.com. And I basically, I'm a web designer by trade, so I've done that for about 12 years now, and just kind of had the idea a few years ago that I wanted to start a blog, wasn't sure, and then it kind of occurred to me that other bloggers were having trouble with customizing their designs. So I kind of wanted to stay out of the freelancing arena.
Yeah.
So I figured the way to go was to just to do tutorials and eventually, and some books, and eventually work up to a course, and just basically hold people's hand like from start to finish on creating their own designs and customizing their blogs and their themes.
So I always find that when I'm dealing with people who are not even a small business, but businesses in general, that the word blogging seems intimidating because it just seems like, first of all, it sounds technical, or it just sounds like too big of a commitment to take on. And I was just talking to Joey, who's in here. Joey and I were talking about, the whole thing of starting a blog. You feel like you're committed. Okay, I have to now blog every day or every week. What are some of the things the tips you give people who just want to make that jump and get started?
So I think, well, they always talk about you want to have a niche, you want to go after some special target market and all that. But I think, honestly, the important thing is just starting somewhere, because almost every blogger out there that has a successful or somewhat successful blog started with a different blog. So I had another blog a few years ago that I started and kind of fell off of that because I realized it wasn't really the type of topic that I was that interested in to keep writing about. So I stopped blogging for maybe like 2 years, 3 years, and all the while kind of thinking, I want to get back into this. I just don't really know what I want to write about. And so I think it's just important just to start, just to get the experience, to work with a blogging platform, and just get out there and start connecting with other people on social media, and and just commenting on other people's blogs and groups, and that's how you get to know people. And then you just eventually kind of get to that point where you're like, I know what I'm going to talk about.
And it's funny because I have my youngest, we call her the Schrecklet, is a sophomore in college, and she's a business and marketing major. And she said, I want to start my blog. I want to start a blog. And she just kept procrastinating. I said, Bailey, you'll never get good. You'll never get good till you get started. And just start it. And then she was worried about what if I don't like the title after a while, or the design? And how married are you? And I know this, but how married are you to your design or your name if you start and you kind of evolve?
I don't think you are at all. I think people change their names and their style all the time. And especially when you're starting out, really, how many readers are you going to have? So you can really say whatever you want, and no one's really going to care, because maybe you'll have your friends, your family joining in, and maybe you'll care about what they think. But, you're not going to be, at the beginning, it's really good practice because you don't have to worry about other people reading it and what they're going to say. You're just kind of practicing writing, getting into the habit, And then the great thing, because I know a lot of people are afraid to write their good content before they have an audience, and I kind of felt that way too at first, and then I realized all I have to do is just keep sharing my old content. If it's still relevant and evergreen, I can share it whenever I want, you know. I'm still sharing some of my first posts, you know.
Yeah, well, I was just saying to someone the other day, I look back at some of my early posts and early videos, and it's embarrassing to look back and see, number one, it's embarrassing to see, I can't believe I'm still in business after I did that. But then the other way to look at it is, wow, I've gotten so much better.
Right? That's true.
Lost pictures. So if you start blogging, you can look back and go, wow, that was my before and after. And just keep getting better.
True.
Now, you and I are looking at kind of blogging from two different angles, because you really look at things coming from that design perspective and getting the design and the layout. And I'm thinking, although you mentioned it, I'm always talking with people about finding your niche when you blog, so that with our clients, I'm always saying, visualize who are your prospective clients. Picture their face. So you sit down and you write to them. And I'm always saying, pick a name. You know, is it Tim? Is it Mary? Write your post to them so that it comes across as you're being helpful to Tim and Mary, or Dennis, whatever. But from the design perspective and being consistent, what are some of the elements that are important when you're designing your blog? Because I'm a train wreck when it comes to, I think, I don't stick to the design. What are some steps for train wrecks like me?
So, like if you're just starting out, you mean?
No, I mean at any stage.
Or just at any stage?
To revamp or get consistent. But if you have a starting out, what are some things to keep in mind?
Well, so I think the important thing is, you know, when you're at a point where, I think first it's more important to be where you're comfortable with your topic, with your niche. That's because before that, I mean, you're always going to be kind of exploring and trying this out and trying that out. And I think that your blog kind of evolves over time, especially it evolves a lot in the beginning. So I would use that kind of as more of an exploratory period, at least the first year, to just kind of test things out and not worry so much about the design. Because again, you know, you don't really have much of an audience. But then once you kind of start to know who you're talking to, who your audience is, then you can start to know, well, what kind of a design would they be interested in? And then from there, you can go into, you know, picking a color palette, which you want to keep as simple as possible, you know, 2 to 3 colors, and that's it. You know, picking a font palette, and that's, again, 2 to 3 fonts, and that's it. And just sticking with those small parameters will keep things kind of tight and more focused. You know, at least your design will be more focused, and it's kind of just like your topic. You want to keep that focus too, so you just want to keep everything kind of tight and not be all over the place.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, the font thing was interesting. Not until I've been blogging for a few years did I even think about. Now, your blog tends to have a font that it's all consistent, but sometimes I'll embed things or bring things in, and then I look at it, or even I choose you know, an H3 tag for a block of text, and then I go back and go, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. So, you know, kind of looking at the theme and the fonts, and you keep getting better as you go on and you start learning these things. A great question by Odette. She said, do you need any specific writing skills? Would you recommend someone take anything, either courses or kind of learn some specific things as far as writing?
I never took any writing courses.
Because I find that I think for some people, it's hard for them to be conversational in writing. Some people go too academic of a writing style, I think, unless you're writing for an academic audience. But sometimes the lay person that's reading a blog, and remember, we have so much content that we're reading.
Right.
Sometimes it's so wordy, and my eyes glaze over, and I want shiny pictures.
Yeah. I mean, I would never recommend against it, you know, and I would love to take one day. I just haven't had the time, really, is what it comes down to, but I would love to, because I mean, I can write okay, I think, but I I wouldn't say I'm a writer.
And there was a whole discussion around that. When do you call yourself a writer? But, you know, and all of us write. All of us can write. If you can speak, you can write.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I guess you're a writer, but
Right.
make a living writing. But yeah, getting your thoughts down and sharing helpful content. So going to
starting with an outline too, I think, for a post, you know, because I think having more epic posts, you know, I think are really important to have. And maybe not every post on your blog is going to be this really long, you know, super explanatory type of thing. But those are the kind of posts that get noticed. And in order to write something like that, you have to cover a lot of ground. And so starting with an outline is the best way to do it, I think.
That is, and it's interesting because I start with a question. So I tend to think in, and I tell people when they first start to write down what are the most frequently asked questions that you get in your business. Write those questions down and make each question the title of your first, you know, of a blog post. With videos is write the question and then answer that as if you're talking to that particular person.
Yeah.
Be conversational and write to answer, you know, bring a solution to that problem or.
Yeah, I like that method too. I think we're all going to kind of try out different things and you got to do what works for you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Jed is putting a notice in here. Thank you, Jed. If you have a question, if you type, today I was going so fast I kept doing it backwards. If you type / and then the word or the letter Q, doesn't have to be capital, just /Q, then write your question. It'll notify me up in the top that there's a question and I'll bring those up. So / thank you, Jed, Q, and then also everybody at the same time, go and click on the left-hand side, the little tell a bird, and it'll let everybody know they need to come in here and glean all this wisdom from Marianne. So Marianne, in your blog again, I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. And
thank you.
When you're looking at the design or layout of a blog, how important are the placement of different images, image boxes or areas?
I think it's very important. You want to have a good balance on the page. You know, you want to balance your image out with other elements on the page. So say, I mean, homepage is a totally different story, right? Because you can have so many different types of layouts for a homepage. You can have sidebar, no sidebar, and it just kind of depends on how you want to structure it. But as far as like a typical blog page where there is a sidebar and the posts are going down the left-hand side, I think it's important to keep in mind how you structure your sidebar so that things are evenly spaced, and then also the images in your post. If you're going to have, I prefer images that are full width, that are at the width of the post. But if some people like smaller images up at the top with some text aligned, you know, next to it. Well, if you have a sidebar on the right, you want to have the image on the left.
Okay,
so it kind of balances out the left side.
Right.
Of the page.
And it is interesting to even know, again, some people blog for a long time before they even realize there's a specific size that they should make their images.
Right.
So that they do show up not so big that they're they bleed off of the side of the blog and it cuts it off, or the other way around, that they're so small that it's not taking advantage of all that great space for your images. So how do you find out the size that your images should be?
So you mean finding out the size of your column, your post column?
How wide your column is.
Sure. So I don't know if you guys know, but there is if you right click on a web page and you know, a little menu will pop up and you go down towards the bottom, there's always something that says inspect element, and that'll bring up the HTML and the CSS for your site. So for any site really, and you can basically in the HTML, and you know, you do need to know a little bit about HTML. I mean, just really basics, but you highlight. If you highlight with your mouse over the different tags in the HTML, depending on the browser that you're using, I know, I'm pretty sure Firefox does this. I'm not sure if Chrome does, if it highlights, but it should highlight on the page what you're hovering over.
Right.
And you can hover over where it highlights the column And then over to the right in the CSS, you can find, you might have to scroll up or down, but it should say width equals whatever that is.
Okay, so Marianne, you're using scary language for a lot of people.
Sorry.
I mean, the reality is most small business owners, they never want to even log into the back end because they think it's like opening your car and saying you're going to fix the brakes on your car.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I always tell people, don't be afraid to find someone who can be a web manager, someone you trust. They don't have to do any major overhaul to your site. Again, cost-wise, if you ask someone if they manage websites, it's things like that that you can send to them and say, you know, what's the size of the images that I should put? How wide is my column? When I first started, Light, who does all our web stuff, he's like, okay, don't make your images any bigger than this. And he gave me I put it on the sticky note. It was on my computer for a long time. So if you're afraid of that, another thing that I did is I just went to search Google for HTML and learn a few little, you said, a few little things. What are the little brackets, the slash bracket, you're ending the format, and things like that. They are helpful, but you can get yourself into trouble if you don't know enough, and then you start messing with that. So do you do any web management?
No, I don't.
No. Okay, so if anyone's in the audience and you're a web manager, throw your info here because we need to refer some business to you just in case.
That's right. However, I do, on the first Friday of every month, I have a post that's just for my subscribers where I send out an email with a password to the page, and for 24 hours I have kind of an open office hours, so you can leave a comment on that page with any questions about your blog, as far as design or some basic blogging questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And I love Website Doctor. Awesome tip. There's a great tool called Riot, Radical Image Optimization Tool that compresses images. Yeah, knowing how to take a large image and resize it. I mean, there's free tools like PicMonkey, and I'm assuming Riot is similar, where you can resize an image so that they're not, so big on there. But learning those basic skills, I think it is important, and put yourself to I would say make yourself go back to school, and once a week for an hour, learn something that'll help your business.
Definitely. And you also never want to upload images that are bigger than what you need. As far as the width, when you take a photo with your phone or a camera, it's going to be this huge image that's usually more than 1,000 and maybe 2,000, 3,000 pixels wide. If you upload that, your page has to download that, so you want to cut it down to the smallest size possible. And
not too small that then when you make it big, it's blurry. So you do have to then kind of know some sizes for your images. So as far as design and starting a blog, there's so many platforms that you can choose. There's WordPress, which is probably the most popular. There's Weebly, Squarespace. When you look at small businesses starting a blog, do you tend to steer people one way or another?
It all depends on your needs. I'm partial to WordPress, so, of course I like to tell people to get on WordPress, but I don't think it's a good fit for everybody, to be honest.
Right.
I really don't, because especially if you're just starting out, you're not sure if you're going to blog. Maybe you don't know what your niche topic is going to be, like we talked about earlier. You're just maybe going to try it out just to see how it goes. You have no idea if it's going to hold your interest. Well, then why? I don't think in that case it's useful to pay for hosting and go through all the installation and deal with all that when you can just go to Blogger and just sign up for a free blog, But, as far as the free hosted blogs where you're not paying for hosting, I think that Blogger is definitely the best one out there over WordPress.com or,
really?
I would never recommend WordPress.com to anyone, actually. It's very, very limited with what you can do with it. And Blogger is a little bit more open with, what you can do. You can change your CSS. You don't have to pay for it. You can have a custom domain pointing to your Blogger blog. You can go out and get mydomain.com or whatever you want to get and point it. But with WordPress, you have to pay to do that.
Right.
And then the real catch that nobody understands is that if you decide to get off of WordPress.com and go to a self-hosted site or Squarespace or whatever, now you have to keep paying WordPress to have your domain point to your site.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are good things to know ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just very limiting, and you know, unfortunately, I feel, you know, WordPress, the self-hosted one is, it's free, right? It's open source, so they don't make any money off of it. So they have to have a product that they can make money off of, which is great because something has to fund, you know, the self-hosted WordPress. But
true.
I just don't think it's a good solution.
We're all in the mindset that all of these things should be free. I mean, Facebook should be free. Twitter should be. We're so used to the free that we forget that somebody's got to be. We want them to stay in business.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Now, video is such a hot, you know, thing right now. And as far as content creation, video is I think one of the best ways to build rapport, to get in touch with your audience. Are there any tips, do's and don'ts for adding video into your blog?
You know, I'll be honest, I haven't done too much with video. I've only done a few, and it's been a while. But no, I don't really have any tips. I mean, I just uploaded a couple videos up to YouTube and just grabbed the embed code and tossed it into the page.
Do you recommend, as far as layout, that there's separate pages for video, or do you just recommend incorporating them into your blog? If it's something that's relevant to a post that you're writing, then yeah, I would just put it in the middle of you know, where it's relevant, in the middle of the post. But if you're maybe doing something like like an autoresponder email course or something like that, you know, then yeah, then you'll probably want to maybe have a couple separate pages. Yeah, I mean, just depends on if you can have written content to go along with it. Right. And for those of you like Jam who said, I want to start doing more video, but you're shy, that's another thing. It's kind of like just get started and you get better. Video is the same way. I mean, I always say you just have to jump in and start with things, and you experiment. And, you know, the good thing is you can always delete a video after you record it if it was that bad. Or, you know, you just, I always say a couple things, just make sure you've got decent lighting in front of you so you're not a silhouette, and make sure your sound is good. But yeah, I think video to me is a nice addition to your blog. And I know some people that incorporate a video into every single blog post, and even to the point where they'll record their entire blog for people who would rather listen or watch instead of read it. And I would say, well, you might not want to put that at the bottom of the blog post because I already read it now that I got there. But any other, like when you're going from zero and you're starting out your blog, what are some tips or important things for people in setting up the blog?
Well, I mean, I do have I have a Start a Blog series where, well, the first one I go into basically just explaining the pros and cons of each of the most popular platforms that are out there, and then because I like WordPress the best, I kind of hope that you will pick WordPress and then go on to the next post. And
do you want WordPress, or other? But WordPress.
I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I think it's a really good solution for a lot of people. So just, you know, as far as if you want something that's robust, it's just really flexible. So I do have a post that helps you getting that set up. You know, where to find themes, where to find, you know, what are the settings you should set up in the beginning, some security plugins that you want to make sure that you have, and other plugins too that I recommend to start out with. And then I have another. I don't
know what a plugin is, because there are so many plugins that we have on our blog, and obviously some will give you warnings about this one's it's gonna make this one not work. But are there any, like, the top plugins or types of plugins that you recommend? A security one is always really important to make sure you have. But first, what is a plugin for those who don't know?
So a plugin is, it's usually a free piece of functionality. So, you know, if you want to have some kind of functionality on your blog, like, you know, say like the discuss comments, or you want you want maybe to put a form or something like that, you can find plugins that you can install, usually for free. Some are paid, and it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. But it basically just plugs in a little bit of functionality into your site. So
we have plugins that help you share to Facebook, Twitter from the blog post. There are plugins that make your blog. Oh gosh, there's so many plugins. But so when you hear the word plugin, it's almost like you're adding on an app of sorts that helps.
It helps do something else. Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to write code,
Right. I'm reading some of the comments. Website doctor, love that. This is the line you need. There are lots of options out there, but then choose WordPress after that.
That's right.
Give fair consideration to all options, then pick WordPress.
I'm not biased.
Okay, let's see what your thoughts on this, because John brought up a good point about video helping your blog's SEO. And I just had this discussion the other day with a client who is adding video to the bottom of her blog because she felt that helped her SEO, when I was saying it should be the other way around. Take the text of your blog and upload it into your video so that your video has text in the closed caption area or in your description area. Put more of the text there and then link it back to your blog. And John, I'd be curious to know, or any of you, your thoughts on that. Or Marianne, your thoughts on adding a video. Do you know if it helps SEO?
If having a video as opposed to the text.
Not opposed, but in addition to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does, only because it's on YouTube, right? I mean, well, if you're assuming that you're using a YouTube video, and I mean, I definitely think it would help bring content. But I'll be honest, I'm not an SEO expert, so I'm probably not the best person to answer that question.
Okay. And someone it does help if you're using a YouTube video. Susie says, yeah, and I always say you need, video itself is not searchable. So it's the title, the tags, the description. Now any annotations you add in there and your YouTube cards you can put on there, all those things help with SEO. But we always backload the text, so have it transcribed, add the text into the closed caption area, because Google never gets it right. And Nina James in the audience here, she would know. Her Australian accent transcribes really weird every time from Google. So you definitely want to upload your own transcription, and I think that can also help from traffic. Let's see, apart from traffic,
definitely
it does get a little thumbnail in the regular search results. Oh, you know what? I didn't think about that for adding that thumbnail of the video. So that's true.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Barb brought up a great question, Barb, about the importance of, which everybody's been talking about for several months now, of responsive, and explain the difference between responsive versus just mobile friendly websites.
Okay. So, I mean, most, well, I guess I shouldn't say most, but in the way we did it in the past, or the way a lot of people did it in the past, was they had basically a separate site. Uh-oh, did we lose you? Can you guys still hear me? No, okay. All right, I'll just keep talking then. So the way we used to do it was you would have a separate mobile site, and a lot of like WordPress and Blogger does offer the ability to add a mobile site, but it basically doesn't take any of the design from your current site. Well, let's see, Gina.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got kicked off.
I could hear you the whole time, but I just disappeared. It was a magic.
Oh, okay. Good. So you didn't miss anything then.
No, not at all.
But yeah, now we're definitely moving more towards responsive sites, and basically that means that that your site, any elements on your site, is structured so that it doesn't matter what size the screen is that you're viewing it on, it'll rearrange the elements on the page to fit in that screen. So, I mean, a lot of, if you'll know a site is not responsive if you view it on your phone, and like on your smartphone, and there's you have to kind of like zoom out because it's really tiny. Yeah, like you can see the same layout that you would see on the screen. That's not responsive. So responsive would be like, say you had like your one column with your content, one column with your sidebar, where your sidebar is going to move down below your content.
Right.
And have your content be first and foremost.
And one of our clients asked the other day about how do you change your site from a regular non-responsive site? How do you just change it to responsive? I was like, oh, it's not just change it. It's not just click a button. It's redo your whole site, right?
Yeah. And I would say that, I unless you're really good with code, right. I would get a new theme or a new template that is responsive.
Yeah.
Or hire somebody to do it for you. Because I mean, if you're good with HTML and CSS, you can do it yourself. But that is not the first thing you want to learn if you're learning HTML and CSS. Trust me.
Usually not the way to do it. Okay, some blogging questions, and then we'll open it up. And I'd love to have some of you jump in here with us and share your wisdom. Give us your best blogging tip. But when you're starting a blog, Marianne, are there certain topics or themes or content-wise to get people going? Any tips on that?
Do you mean like certain themes? Just like somebody starting out.
Of good post schedule, like a good post schedule, which I always say if you can do once a week, that's awesome. This was Website Doctor. Sorry, I don't know what Website Doctor. Let me look at your name. But ideally, once a week would be your goal to shoot for, but that's not always possible. Some people are saying there's no way to do that. But
I would try not to go more than once every 2 weeks, in between posts.
Yeah, not less frequent.
Once a month is not enough. Once every 3 weeks is not enough. I would say to definitely aim for once a week. Some people post a lot, and they'll post 3, 4, 5 times a week. I think that's too much, but because I'm never going to read all those posts. But
and it depends.
I would rather read one really good meaty post, once a week, than read 3 or 4 little posts that are kind of
That's interesting.
So, that's me. That's me personally.
It depends on your topic and your audience, obviously. And the bigger your audience, right. You might start fragmenting off into different segments and things.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, if you have a cooking blog or something like that, maybe it might totally make sense to have a new recipe every week or every day or something like that. So you're right. It totally depends on the topic.
Yeah. Then you could give me one every day, so then I could cook that recipe.
Hey, Gina, I have to run and get my charger because apparently my battery's low.
Okay,
so I'll be right back.
Open up a seat here, Jed.
Okay,
come on down. Hey, Jed.
Hey, Gina.
How are you? Good. Yeah, give Jed some love in there. Everybody's giving you high fives.
So I got to admit, it's 5:30. I was ready to go home. I was about to close. I was closing Windows out, and the Blab window was open on the other screen, and I was about to close it out, and I saw, there's a Blab, and Gina's hosting it. I had to come in, and I'm glad I did. It was a good Blab. You guys are talking about some great stuff, and so I love it.
Tips for people who are still either non-committal on the whole blogging thing. I think it can be scary because it just seems like it's so daunting. Which
it is scary. I am one of the non-committal ones. And I'm writing a book right now, and somebody gave me a really hard time because I told them, I don't know if I have time for a blog because I'm busy writing a book. And they said, that is a terrible excuse, because if you're writing a book, you need to have a blog, and why not reuse the content? So that made sense to me. In this very Blab, because I have a website template on WordPress right now that's up and ready to go. So, Gina, I will definitely send you the link and let you see it once it goes live, which is hopefully in the next couple of days.
Nice.
But so I advise companies, small and big, on social media strategies, and blogging is core to many of those. So why I shouldn't do it myself is pretty pathetic, but I'm glad to finally jumped in, taking the plunge,
Well,
and I thought it was a great question. How often do you do it? Like,
yeah.
that was a great question. And I think as often as you can commit to on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
And weekly is, I think, a very good suggestion. Can you maintain it weekly? Well, start blogging now before you have a blog up. So that's what I did. And see if you can.
On WordPress, you can schedule your blog posts. So you can write a bunch of them and then schedule them to drop once a week so that you can have that consistency. So maybe on the weekends you can write a couple posts and then schedule one for this week.
Right. Yeah, Neen is in the comments agreeing with us.
Yeah, yeah.
And consistency is the key. I'll share that with everybody across social platforms and content marketing in general. If you're going to grow an audience, they have an expectation, and that is that if they like what they see, that they might could see more of it, right. And you need to provide that on a consistent basis. So if you can do weekly, go for weekly. I completely agree.
Barb asked a great question. Let me hear your thoughts on this, you guys. When you're writing a business blog and all of a sudden you have a topic you want to write about, but it really isn't in alignment with your business, it's more personal, do you need to start a separate blog?
That depends. So I'd love to hear Marianne's opinion on that. I am a speaker, so like you, Gina, I do speaking events, I do training, and I do corporate events. And most of what I publish on social media is very business oriented. But sometimes I think it's good to open the curtain and let people see you're a person too. So I wouldn't do that on a regular basis and like have, hey, here's my blog on fantasy football. But I think it's perfectly okay, and I would encourage it, even for a thought leader at a corporation, to share a blog about something that's personal to them, but not on a regular basis, right? Then you're talking about another blog.
I have a strong opinion on it, so I'm going to wait. What says you?
So were you asking specifically about somebody that owns a corporate company, or just like,
on your blog, if all of a sudden you wanted to, because you're taking on a big adventure in your personal life next year about moving to Costa Rica, which that's what.
Oh, cool.
Her and I on Twitter that's where I want to. So, do you blog about that in your business blog, or do you have a blog?
I don't really. I mean, I wrote a little bit about that in my About page, but other than that, no. But I think that. I think that I will once I do that, once I move down there. Right now, I don't write too many personal posts. And yeah, there's kind of a debate about that, I guess, whether it's a good idea or not. And I think it just kind of depends on you, your audience, your topic, really. Like, does it fit, And just for me personally, it just doesn't really make sense to share too many personal things. Or personal posts, I guess. However, that said, just a few weeks ago, I did share something that was a little bit more personal because it was related to my life as a blogger. And so I thought that might be helpful for other people.
I would imagine that your audience...
Like a struggle.
I would imagine your audience, Marianne, aspires to maybe have a web business and move to Costa Rica. I would imagine that's something they would aspire to do, and to hear your story, I think, would be pretty cool for your audience.
And to be honest, I do share more of that stuff in my newsletter, and just because I kind of figured, well, for me, that's just a better place to share it, because if people, I don't know, I guess it's just, I kind of wanted something that was a little bit more, like you're getting a little bit more of me. I share a little bit of behind the scenes of my business, of growing my business in my newsletter. And so, whereas I just, and I might share that one day on the blog, but for now I kind of want to keep it exclusive to my subscribers.
My thoughts on it, it depends on your business. So as a speaker, if that's your business, And an individual business, a solopreneur, you probably are bringing people on the journey. And so your social media is probably the same way. It's business and personal. If you're blogging for a business, I mean, I on our SocialKNX blog, it's all business stuff. And I was asked, I don't know, last year or the year before, to write a blog post about our son was at Columbine years ago during all the shootings there. And so every time there's another something, someone wants me to write a post or write something, I thought, I can't write this on our business blog. Or I went to Kilimanjaro and I had this whole blog I wanted to write about our trip to Kilimanjaro, and I couldn't write it with enough of a twist to make sense on SocialKNX blog. So I did start a personal blog called Gina Unplugged, which is totally like a grapevine that has 3 grapes on it and they're dying. I never give it any TLC. And so, but it's a place where I can write personal stories and then drive people there to read it. But I keep saying one day, who knows, I'll want to go and just write a personal, really give attention to a personal blog. So I think it depends on your business, number one, who that audience is, and the topics you write about. Like, you can't make your blog, your business blog, therapy. I've seen people do that.
Right.
And, oh, wow, you should not, like,
that. Yeah, that I completely agree.
Yeah.
Just say no to the TMI, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's just you're still going through something. And I was just discussing this with someone today. You're going through something that's kind of raw, and it's good to write about it because it's therapy, but it may not be the right time to publish it. So, ask yourself, what's the point of my blog? Who am I trying to reach? And that should dictate. I mean, I look at content strategy and I'm thinking your content has to focus everybody's attention on what you're an expert in. And if you can bring people some personal tidbits and stories within your blogs that give them the insight they need to get to know you, but it still has to focus in on that audience is following your blog for content that you have to stay true to. Or, I mean, there are people who have lots of blogs. I don't know how they do it, but.
Right.
Yeah, that boggles my mind. I see some people writing blog posts 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
but
way.
That's how you do. I mean, gosh, wouldn't that be great? We could all move to Costa Rica and sit on a blog all day. I mean, I could totally be a full-time blogger, and I just need to have no other interaction. So with the couple minutes, I guess 15 minutes left, what other tips? Anybody else want to jump in here with some more tips on getting that blog going and giving us some of your insight?
Yeah, so I'm going to step back out. I really appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you doing this blab, Gina. You really need to keep doing tons of blabs. I always love seeing you on here.
I've committed to the world. I'm going to find.
So
we're doing science. I thought I better actually do one for us.
Good for you. And I'll step out. Dropping one last tip is have a plan on how you're going to market that blog. So as you're putting it together and doing the graphics for your website, consider how you're going to tell the world about it too, and have a plan for that, so that maybe while you're in that graphic or content creation mode, you can create little snippets and pieces and little mini teaser posts that you can share across Facebook and Twitter and other social platforms to get the word out.
Yeah, because if you build it, they do not come.
Yeah, you have to have a plan on how you're going to get the word out. Who you're going to work with to tell more people. Find somebody like Gina with millions of followers that she can pass the word along.
No, but here's a great point. And I was just talking to someone, and they were saying, how do you get more people to comment on blogs? Because people don't comment like they used to on blogs.
Yeah.
Any tips? And feel free, anybody to jump in. We still have an open seat. I want to talk about, how do you get people to comment on blogs?
Marianne?
I always end my blog post with a question and try to invite conversation. But it's kind of funny. I get comments on my posts, but I don't get a ton of them. I get a lot of people that interact with me more on Twitter and social media than they do in my comments. So, do
you think the social buttons? Because I wonder this: do we have too many calls to action? Like at the bottom, we say, follow us on
Could be.
Facebook, connect with me on Facebook. Hey, comment here on my blog. And then they leave going to Twitter and they comment over there. Or I did the mistake of I posted my blog post on my Facebook page and I said, I'd love to have your comments. Well, of course, they commented right there on Facebook because they're right there.
Well, you can give me your feedback. My intent when I publish my blog is to direct people to my social sites for commenting. So rather than have the comment section on the blog itself, I intend to send people either to a Facebook post that will already be up or to invite them to share on whichever platform of their choice. Because I'm on all of them, I can go and reply to those comments and they can choose what platforms they like.
Yeah, I've seen people do that too.
Okay, now
I think there's a pro and con to that. I don't know if encouraging people to leave your platform is the right thing to do.
Right.
So I'm a little nervous and hesitant to do that, but I am a social person. I'm in the social media world, and that's where I interact. So probably a good place to find me is on those platforms.
Well, and I suggested to this person that was saying she gets no comments to pick a couple people after she writes each post. Think of a couple people who have strong opinions on that topic and email them with a link to your blog and say, I would love to have your opinion on this. And ask specifically for their opinion on it. Or you can do the influencer route where you mention a couple people and use influencers in your blog post as examples and let them know and invite them to come on blog. But I like the idea of asking specific people. You can't do it every time. You have to have a big group of people to email, so you're not emailing the same people. But people have emailed me saying, I'd love your thoughts on this post. And I feel obligated when they email me. I click on it and I go check it out and I comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question I have though, is that a sustainable tactic? Can that sustain regular commenting on your blog? And I don't think it can.
It might help jumpstart it. And again, then you'd have to have really good content so that people go, oh, I need to make sure I subscribe. Or I'd love to hear some other thoughts on it, because that I think is a challenge for. And Barb in the audience said, she's closed off comments, and I've seen several people do that. Even big ones that close comments because there's nasty grams in there. Oh, here's Barb now.
Oh,
Barb.
good. I want to hear some more feedback, and I'm going to drop off so someone else can give their feedback too. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Bye,
Barb.
Hi. Well, first I have to apologize for my appearance today.
Oh, please.
I am totally techie.
She's totally techie. I know her. Yeah.
Well, it's just one of those days. I've got to get so much done. I'm working on some courses to launch on Udemy. But you may recall that I've been doing websites since '94. Actually, worked on the beta project Netscape when I was with Prodigy Interactive. And I have over 100 domains in my inventory now. And I've published over 1,400 websites. And the 100 domains, the ones that are live or on WordPress, I use that as the content management system. So the big deal these days, though, is having a blog within a business website.
Right.
And I looked at that and I said, man, I'm over 60 now, Gina. Oops. And I'm still going, but I just don't have that energy. And so one of the reasons I'm here on Blab is because video has come mainstream and you can actually have a real discussion with someone and you're not working with robots. Not that we can't have convergence, as you and I know, but for the most part, you get down to reality and you can actually do business with one another. So you can take it over to Blab and then you can take it offline and do the deal. I mean, that's what business is about. And so this blog section within the website, because I've pretty much, even my corporate's website, I've taken down, ripped it apart, and I said, well, I'm going to have to put the blog back up. But my whole mission there is using video, not using text. You can encode that. You can, as you said with YouTube, it pays to have the transcript from your video on YouTube. And it's like, I give up. Google wins. They've got YouTube. They're letting us have it. So embed that in my site. Makes it so much easier. Servers, there's no tax on my servers. Google gets it all. So, and then I get higher in search engine support because it's Google. So it's just, that's the way that I'm going. But I really appreciate the small business owner today, and that, I mean, I know when I got started, you only have so many resources and only so much time. And it's tremendously taxing.
It is. And there's a lot to know. And I mean, I always suggest people take hold of resources. Like Marianne has a course on how to get started with blogging. It's like, find these resources and put yourself into school, into class once a week. Make yourself learn these things so that you're not feeling left behind. Hey, Tim.
Hey, how are you?
Okay, I love your beach ball.
No, this is Robert Stern. He's because everybody needs a friend.
I love it.
Oh, God.
You guys can all tell him I did that.
Have you shown it to him?
Says, I'm sure since you mentioned him, he'll be in the room instantly.
I love it. So impart some blogging wisdom on us here.
So hey, I have a thing called Rock Around Your Blog, and I actually do exactly what your title says. I help entrepreneurs build their own blog to build their business. So I work speakers, coaches, and direct sales entrepreneurs, helping them build a personal brand to tell their story or product. So what's your story? That's what I always ask. I got into the speaking and coaching world because I was friends with Zig Ziglar. I used to wash his car.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's cool.
Yeah. So it's like when I tell you this story, it's gonna play, and then everybody wants to go check everything out I do because I put my story into it. Is why everybody goes, oh, I want to find out more.
Right.
All right. People come to me all the time and say, well, how do I get a follow? What do I write about? How do I get a follow? Start talking about your journey. I can make everything I do into a journey, into a story, into fun, and that's what you want to make your blog awesome. Start telling the story. I mean, when I first got on Blab last week, I went and read the blog and the history and how they started this, and
it's a cool story.
Yeah, all right. Tell the same thing. You just have to tell your company story. So.
Well, and you're saying tell the company story, and stories I think are great for blog posts. Again, keeping it, like you're saying, in that context of what is the purpose of my blog, who's my audience, and then how do I create stories for them to follow. And part of that, I have now it's on Evernote on my phone, but it used to be a little, like a paper little booklet that I'd carry around, and I called it my story starters. So anytime I would think of a story, I would just jot it down so that later I could go back and type it in and elaborate and edit. And I knew 150 words was about a minute of speaking. So I would say, okay, if I'm going to tell this story and I need to tell it in 2 minutes, it can't be longer than 300 words. So I would edit it down to 300, or I would have a longer version. And I kind of got in that habit. And now I find for blogging, same thing is, jot stories down as you think of them or experience them, because you're right. Stories are a great blogging resource.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, from day one of starting my blog, I didn't know what to do in this industry, so I started a blog.
Right. That's interesting.
And now I'm and because I did it trying to create a brand rather than be a brand, is now I'm asked to speak on blogging and branding everywhere I go. I mean, I spoke on it 5 times this week. It's what day of the week? I don't even know. So,
Marianne, that's a question for you. Is when someone comes to you and they want to start out, how do you find their style? Like, do you ask them certain questions to get a feel for how their blog should look? Yeah,
I mean, I like I was saying before, I mean, you need to know, I mean, you have to have something that works for you, not just also for your audience. But, you know, if you're speaking to your audience, you have that kind of connection with them in whatever your topic is, right? So I think it's finding a way to express that through your design. You know, and you know, what are they going to be, what's going to draw them to your blog visually? And that's what you need to find out, I think. And,
what if your style is kind of girly, and yet your audience that you're trying to reach is not? Because I see some blogs and I'm thinking, okay, this is a total chick blog.
I do actually. No, my target audience is mostly women. I have.
It looks very feminine, and I immediately loved it. But I thought, okay, if you were trying to sell to a mixed audience, obviously you would need to tweak some things on your blog.
If I was, I might, you know, I might make it, probably less girly for sure. And you know, and I have plenty of men that read my blog and that join my Facebook group and that follow me on Twitter that I interact with. And I mean, they're of course more than welcome. It's just that, you know, my main target is women. And so
there's no sign that says no boys allowed.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. But, you know, I mean, you can't please everybody, right? So you kind of have to pick somebody and go with that, right? So, and for me, it's women bloggers, women creatives, women.
But see, I love that because you picked your lane. Yeah. And then I would say pick your lane and then dominate there. I mean, then stay so true that people start knowing you for that lane. And I think, and I know that's been my mistake over the years of just, I like all the lanes. And
shoes.
I'm a crazy driver. I need to pick a lane and stay there. And I think that's hard. I think in business that can be hard. Yeah.
It is for sure, but you know, if you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. So
right.
That's all about that.
That's why it's really important to just pick one way and just go with it, you know. And that might evolve over time too. Just because you pick one niche doesn't mean you have to stay with that for the rest of your life, your blog's life, right? I mean, you can always evolve a little bit. And even though I started out, you know, as designed for women, it's even so. The things that I talk about have evolved over time based on, you know, the interactions that I get from my audience and what they like versus what they don't like. And so it's a learning process. Nobody has us down, you know.
No, if they do, stop following them.
Well, this has been awesome. And Marianne, how can people get a hold of you or let's write the name of your blog here so that if people want to know more about how they can create a lovely blog, where can they find info on you? So it's designyourownblog.com. And if you're just getting started with a blog and not really sure where to start, or like I said, I wrote a post about, you know, to help you decide what platform to start with. You can go to designyourownblog.com/start a blog, and I'll put that link in there too. So. It's just a good place to start. And then if you already have a blog and you want to, hold on, let me just type this real quick. I have a hard time doing two things at once. I know.
But if you want to learn how to design your blog, to tweak the design, to pick out your colors and all that kind of stuff, I do have a book too, an ebook that's basically a course in a book, and it's only $24, so that's available on my site too. A good DIY, and we'll be following your journey to Costa Rica because I may become your neighbor one of these days. I hope so. At least come visit me. It's October and I'm in Chicago. I'm already planning my escape.
I would have left that by now.
Yeah, I know. I've only been here 8 months, and it's I'm already going.
You learned.
Well, I learned after a week. What do we do here? It's been beautiful in the summer. That's all I can say. It's beautiful here in the summer. But thank you very much, Marianne. Thank you, Tim and Barb, for jumping in the hot seat here and sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. And this has been really fun. And next week, I think we have Neen James, who was in our audience here. We're going to talk about short attention spans in our content marketing and how do we deal with those short goldfish attention spans in our marketing. I'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.